Madonna now was to meet a young 18-year-old Madonna getting off the bus. With the same drive and focus and determination, what advice would you give your younger self?
Fasten your seatbelts, you're in for a bumpy ride.
E aí, seus fela! Ela que ainda é consagrada rainha do pop e esse lugar ninguém mais tira dela, mas é claro que a gente vai falar de polêmicas, de curiosidades e tudo mais. Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone nasceu no dia 16 de agosto de 1958 em Bay City, Michigan, em Detroit, nos Estados Unidos. De uma família de classe média, sempre teve tudo na infância, era mimadinha pelo pai, blá 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 blá. Porém, mesmo sendo mimado, seu pai também não foi lá. O bar de rosas. Madonna não podia sair, Madonna não podia namorar, Madonna não podia fazer nada. Muito que bem, Madonna perdeu sua mãe aos 5 anos de idade e ela sofre essa perda até hoje, ela fala sobre isso até hoje. É muito ruim crescer sem uma mãe. Mas, ao contrário do que muita gente pensa, a Madonna nem sempre quis ser cantora. Na realidade, a música para ela foi meio que um acidente. Inclusive, muita gente antes achava que Madonna era um nome artístico. Na realidade, Madonna é o mesmo nome da mãe dela. Então, tipo, Madonna é uma Madonna Junior.
She was in kindergarten Catholic school at the time, and when her records were shipped along to the public schools, the nuns wrote, Madonna needs.
She would take her mom's place, you know, do the cooking, the cleaning, kind of take care of the family. And instead, Dad brought home this, quote, other woman.
Her father met and married Joan Ciccone.
She always resented that woman coming in, kind of the interloper.
From every appearance, they had a good relationship.
I don't want to say about the evil stepmother.
A lot of caring, a lot of mutual trust, respect.
Madonna was supposed to go home and babysit Mario on Friday nights. I would call the stepmother and say, all the cheerleaders have to be at these after-game dances and wear their uniforms. We would tell her mom she had to be here as part of the cheerleading requirement so she could be here to dance. True.
Madonna was actually a great student in school.
She's always been driven to please her dad.
She was in the top 10% of the range of intelligence. She was really active in a lot of school activities, both in the classroom and in the extracurricular, from helping to found the first chapter of the thespian group to cheerleader, Big Brother Sister program called Help a Kid, where she actually was a mentor for some of the elementary school children. She was able to get along with all kinds of kids, from the very serious student to the most artistic.
She blended in. Most of the time, like every other kid, she wanted to belong.
We had a talent show during her 10th grade year of high school, and Madonna chose to dance. It was our first glimpse of her wearing capris and showing a little midriff, and we were like, okay, what's going to happen now? What did happen was she was a phenomenally great dancer, strutted her stuff, a little risque, but her dance quality in the art took over, and she was the hit of the talent assembly.
Bom, como é que aconteceu esse acidente aí na música? Madonna, primeiro, ela nunca quis ser cantora. O sonho da Madonna era ser atriz. No meio artístico, na realidade, ela começou como dançarina. Inclusive, ela até chegou a iniciar uma faculdade de dança lá na Universidade de Michigan. Conheceu um professor que levou ela para vários lugares e mostrou para ela o nosso mundinho colorido. Mostrou para ela alguns bares gays, levou para ela ver como é que era a dança do mundo underground e assim por diante.
I had to make a film for film class. I just referred to it as the egg film. I think I just said, do you want to be in a movie? And she said, sure. She didn't have a problem with it whatsoever. She just went ahead and did it and did a great job. It's not really about anything. It's pretty clear that even at that age, she was willing to do quite a bit in front of the camera, including eat a raw egg. She was babysitting at somebody's house. And so the film is actually made on the redwood deck, you know, off of the room while the baby was asleep.
First time I saw Madonna, she was 16 years old. I was actually interviewing her ballet teacher to see if I wanted to bring him to the University of Michigan. So I went out to Rochester to his dance studio, and there were 3 students in the class, and Madonna was one of them. She was so beautiful and so lithe and so small, and her lines were gorgeous. I ended up hiring Christopher Flynn, who she adored.
I guess the most memorable visit Madonna made to my office was during her senior year when she was applying for a dance scholarship at University of Michigan. I think Madonna chose University of Michigan in the School of Dance because Christopher Flynn was there, and he gave her great encouragement to follow along and basically sent the message to her, stay with me, I'll help mentor you, I will teach you.
She was an excellent student, very disciplined. I remember her standing always in the front row. She got into many major dances that we did that would normally not even cast undergraduates, much less a freshman. One of the highlights for me was the duet that I made for her with Josh Cabot, which is a kind of male-female confrontation, face to face. It was sexual. She has to roll on him and be on her hands and confront him. She really, I think, uses all of her power that she had then to do it. She was very, very small. I bet she weighed less than 100 pounds. And so she didn't have a lot of power and strength. There's a softness and actually a vulnerability that's really beautiful that comes out. There's no question in my mind that she would have been a professional dancer if she wanted to have gone that route. I remember going dancing with her and Christopher Flynn. But now this is not something that I did.
The Rubaiyat was the gay bar in town. It was the best place to go dancing. It was the only place to go dancing.
That she could go discoing with her teachers as a freshman was kind of a big deal. I mean, freshmen didn't go out dancing with their teachers.
First met Madonna in Christopher Flynn's ballet class. Madonna was, I think, a favorite of Christopher's, definitely. He liked to use her to demonstrate the way he liked the dancing done. I remember thinking, this kid's gonna go somewhere. I had designed a dance that was based on a street scene, a theatrical dance. Madonna was a very theatrical performer, so she was one I asked immediately to be in my dance. Each dancer did a solo, and they would dance in front of their images. One of the photographs I took of her, she didn't think was flattering. It was a shot where she's sort of bending over, looking between her legs. It sort of showed how Madonna would try something just to be outrageous.
I first encountered Madonna at the University of Michigan at a scholarship audition for the American Dance Festival. We had about 80 dancers, and I saw among the 80 this very thin, dark little girl pushing herself around, working very hard, and I thought, that's interesting, let's take her. Toward the end of the course, she said to me, do you think you're going to need any dancers in New York? I said, Madonna, you've got to go home to Michigan first, and how are you going to get to New York? And how are you going to live there? She said, don't worry. She was young, and she was determined to do it right and well. November rolled around, and I was teaching a class, and the door opened, and there was Madonna. She had come. One day she came in with a sweater cut from the neck all the way down to below the waist. Cut. And a safety pin about a foot long, holding this garment together, but it was dripping off of one shoulder. And I looked at her back, and I thought to myself, she's going to do something someday. She came with, I believe, one or two other people from Michigan. They found a closed-up synagogue where they were living, and I was worried about her. I got her a job at the Russian tea room in the cloakroom. The arrangement was that they would feed her because I was really worried about how she was going to eat in New York.
I had a small group of artists that met in my studio on 29th Street on Thursday evenings. So Madonna came, posed for me for a couple of times there, and from that we worked for about a year together. She was a Lower East Side girl, and her look was that. I was inspired by Michelangelo's Sistine Ceiling. I did a whole series of body drawings. From that, I worked on this idea of doing a series of Sibyls. She made a big $10 an hour. Lee Friedlander, who was a very prominent photographer, he would ask me to send him a model every now and then. Madonna was one of the models that I sent to him. He did a whole series of photographs of her. He'd gone to see this film, Desperately Seeking Susan, and he said, is that the same Madonna? And I said it was. And it was shortly after that that he sold the photographs to Playboy. I think he got a lot of money for that too.
Bem, cansada da vida que ela levava, onde ela não podia fazer muita coisa sem a permissão do pai, ela resolveu sair de casa meio que fugida e, segundo as próprias palavras dela, ela falou ao taxista.
I made my first trip to New York City, my first plane ride, my first cab ride, and I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know it all, and I asked the taxi cab driver to drop me off in the middle of everything. So he dropped me off in Times Square. Beleza, chegando em Nova York, Madonna comeu pão que o diabo amassou, passou fome,
pagou aluguel, trabalhou de garçonete, suou pra caramba.
First time I met Madonna was when the Gilroy brothers had come on over and catch a rehearsal. They were called Breakfast Club at this point. Dan and Ed, the Gilroy boys, were on guitar, and Madonna was on drums. She wasn't a great drummer, but neither was Ringo. Angie Schmidt was the one on bass. The Gilroys wanted me to come back on bass instead of Angie. Madonna mostly was drumming for like 8 of the 10 songs, and she would come out for her 2 songs as a front person. Madonna literally wanted to actually reverse the whole thing. Instead of her being 20%, she would do 80 and they would do 20. But it was really their band, and they didn't want to go that route. I left the group with Madonna and started a new little group. We were auditioning drummers, but none of them were working out, so she contacted Stephen Bray. I guess he responded positively because he came to New York.
I think the first time I saw Madonna was 1977 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. There was a hustle lesson at this discotheque. She likes to say that she offered to buy me a drink, but it was the other way around. It was kind of just a social friendship. After she'd moved to New York, I found out that she wasn't studying dance anymore. She was in a band.
She came to me one day, and she said, you know, this dancing is difficult. I think I'd like to be a rock singer. She said, a friend of mine is writing some songs, and we're going to audition them. There's an agent here from Paris. And she left, and I thought, sure, okay, fine. She came back the next day, and she said, you know, they took us, and I'm going to Paris next week. I never saw her after that.
She had been hired to be part of the Patrick Hernandez review. Although, you know, it was an interesting experience, she didn't really like it. I think she got a lot of good clothes out of it, but she basically did what she could to antagonize her keepers and get out of there. Just being in the chorus line wasn't in her game plan.
I had made a few films in high school, Super 8 films, and then in 1979, I thought, wouldn't it be a lot of fun to make a feature-length Super 8 film? So I put an ad in Backstage magazine looking for a dominant woman who knows how to act and dance. I was able to attract 400 pretty boring resumes. But there was a photograph that actually dropped out of this envelope. She was putting lipstick on. I looked at it and thought that my fantasies were being realized. I read her resume. It was a 3-page handwritten letter.
Dear Stephen, I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, where I began my career in petulance and precociousness. By the time I was in 5th grade, I knew I either wanted to be a nun or a movie star. 9 months in a convent cured me of the first disease.
That made me realize in about 3 seconds that this is the person that I wanted for this movie. I was interested in exploring a theme of revenge.
Do you think for once that any lover of mine could be tamed? Right now they're like irritated hornets, and they want to sting, and that's why I'm scared.
She was very directable. She would do what she was asked to do, and then make it into what she wanted to.
We're all caught in this fucking vacuum of dominance and submission.
There was a scene that began as a sketchy idea.
Stop it, all of you!
What would it be like to imagine this dominatrix type person with 3 lovers, and she tells them she no longer wants to be their dominatrix?
Relationship has to end.
And what would the reaction be? Madonna pretty much took it from there. They kind of wrestled with each other in a sort of improvised choreographed scene, kind of in slow motion of them all sort of tangling with each other. It's fairly erotic. There were moments when things would happen in front of a camera that were just remarkable. The highlight of making the movie was renting a limousine and riding around Times Square with these crazy people, having a lot of fun. She and Angie were really good friends. The skylight was open in the limousine, so the sun was coming down on them. All of a sudden, they just break into this rendition of Let the Sun Shine. It's quite fetching, actually, but of course, they had no place in the movie. She had to pay her rent 1 month, and she said she wanted to get paid. There must have been 200 people that were involved in this movie, and the only person that was paid was Madonna. I said, all right, Madonna, if I pay you $100, you need to sign a release. At that time, I hadn't had people sign releases. Again, you have to understand the level of professionalism here. So she signed the release. I finished the movie in 1984. Coincidental with that finishing, Madonna was starting to become famous. I called Madonna up and I said, well, Madonna, I finally finished the film. She came over to my apartment and I enjoyed watching the movie. She was positive. She liked it. But then she said, F you when she left. And I said, well, F you too. In 1985, Madonna sued me to stop the movie, and I had her sign release, which was a critical piece of paper, and the best $100 that I ever paid.
First met Madonna at a party given by my friend Norris Burrow. Looked like she felt out of place at the party. And it made me certainly want to see her again. And I think a few days later we had a first date.
Começaram a namorar, e ele, na verdade, estava fazendo uma banda. A The Breakfast Club. Madonna entrou na banda meio que de gaiato, mas não para cantar. Ela entrou para tocar bateria. Sabia tocar? Não sabia. Mas ela aprendeu. Um dia, tocando bateria no Breakfast Club, mal e porcamente, a atual vocalista do grupo tinha tido um problema, sei lá, são várias lendas que rondam essa história. E aí, Madonna falou, eu canto essa música, tem problema? Ela foi lá, cantou e gostou do que ouviu. E ela percebeu que entrar no mundo da música faria dela de repente até mais famosa. Só que aí tiveram alguns problemas, principalmente de ciúmes, porque o namorado dela explicou, falou, Madoninha, deixa eu te falar uma coisa. A banda é o The Breakfast Club, não é a banda Madonna, não é pra você aparecer mais que a gente. Os dois discutiram, o namoro terminou, e ela pegou até alguns carinhas da banda e fez a banda dela. No início a Madonna queria que a banda se chamasse Madonna. Gente, super normal, todo mundo fazer a banda com o nome do vocalista, nada a ver. Só que os integrantes não quiseram, falaram, não, a gente não vai tocar numa banda chamada Madonna. Um dos apelidos da Madonna é M. M, letra M, de Madonna. Pois bem, fizeram então a banda M and the M's. Um carinha lá, um diretor de documentário, estava fazendo um documentário lá de umas bandas undergrounds em Nova York e meio que se esbarrou aí com os M's. Ele falou, vocês não querem participar aí do documentário, tá? É só gravar uma parte de vocês falando, cada um grava a sua e eu coloco no documentário.
I called Madonna to say, hey, I'm coming to New York. She had this band. She said, well, I need a drummer, I've got a set full of tunes, and I actually have gigs. Now, I don't think she really did have the gigs at the time. We hooked up on the corner of 38th Street and 8th Avenue. There's this building converted to rehearsal studios. Madonna had secured a lock, and we went up, and she played me the songs that they had, and we just kind of jammed the first day. I was excited to find that she had written some solid songs.
It's like, what are we going to call ourselves? Let's just call ourselves Madonna. It's a catchy name. It's kind of rock and roll. But Steve hated that. No, I'm not going to play in a group called Madonna. And she said, well, if we can't call it Madonna, my nickname used to be Emmy, so we'll call it Emmy.
Her performance was probably you'd grade it a 10 for energy and enthusiasm. She belted. She screamed.
Shut the f*** up! You actually believed I could ever let you go.
The magnetism theory of rock and roll is that, get really good and you find a record label A&R person that would say, oh, you guys are the cat's meow, and we kind of sucked. I mean, we didn't suck bad, but we weren't that good. After a crashing, thunderous ending, there'd be, you kind of hear that.
I met Madonna in 1979. I had been working on a film at the time, An Artificial Light, which was about a group of disparate characters. Everybody in the film was essentially themselves. All the people wrote their own parts, and hers was a story about herself, using snippets of her poetry, almost fantasies of her transforming from walking down the street to this highly coiffed rock star.
I mean, you get out of bed and you scratch your head, you stroke the cat, but she's got a rat. So you take a bath and go down the drain, but you're not afraid because you're not insane. She was enjoyable to watch because you knew you were getting the real person, and you weren't getting a veneer she put on. She had a fairly sober childhood, and at this point she's willing to do what she had to do. She came up with the line, I'll do anything for money. I'll do anything for money, because money is my love.
Which was sort of the drift of the whole film, in the sense of having to get things done to get to another place.
Don't look back. Don't think about what you're doing. Just mix it up.
Os M's estavam até fazendo um certo barulho em Nova York, aí nos clubes underground, mas não fizeram sucesso não, até porque a Madonna pulou do barco antes mesmo que isso pudesse acontecer. Madonna conheceu a empresária Camille, que até hoje fica mordida com a Madonna.
I've read numbers of interviews by Madonna, people writing stories, other TV shows, and you get the impression that Madonna did it all alone. And I'm just here to say that there were a number of people in the old days, and there are a lot of people now that helped to make Madonna the star she is.
That's great. You get a lot of credit for discovering her.
Eu sei que, antes da Madonna começar a fazer solo, ela ainda gravou mais um clipe. Porém, ela não canta nesse clipe, ela só dança. O clipe é da banda Conk, que aí no caso é a música Conk Party. Olha, todo mundo conhece. E na verdade, ela entrou como figurante nesse clipe, onde ela só faz ali uma dança com um colega dela, enfim, sai dançando. Só que ela dança tanto, fica tão legal, que a câmera, tipo, dá um foco nela. Pois bem, vamos então agora para Madonna mesmo. Diz que Madonna levou uma fitinha com várias demos para um DJ tocar, tocou, a balada falou, uau, essa música é muito legal, enfim, começou a fazer sucesso. Esse DJ conheceu alguns produtores, levou esse material para a gravadora e a Madonna assinou seu primeiro contrato.
There had been some very lean and desperate hours. We basically were eating yogurt and should we put the peanuts in the yogurt or have them as an appetizer? At some point, Camille Marbone came into the picture. Camille had an office and studios in the same music building. Her partner, Adam, ran into Madonna in the elevator.
I was downstairs waiting for one of our clients to arrive, and then Madonna was just kind of skipping through the lobby and inadvertently gave me some flirtatious little remark how I resembled John Lennon. I certainly immediately thought, what does she want from me, you know? Madonna had asked me if I knew anybody that could help her, further her in her career. She had an energy about her. I don't think she was going anywhere with Emmy. So I said possibly. I got her studio number and I spoke to my partner. Camille also liked what she saw.
Camille and Adam were partners in this production company. Their focus was developing new acts. Camille sort of was her knight in shining armor because she basically took her in, provided food and a place to live. The necessities were getting handled.
Madonna was not much different than your average spoiled brat. She got a weekly allowance. If she needed equipment, Gotham would purchase that for her. We gave her studio time, however much she wanted. She would stomp her heels and I want. And we really, we wanted to give her those things. We really did. It was like watching a kid play when she went to the studio. She was always just beaming.
Camille seemed to be the Svengali of the situation, where she was like the teacher. Okay, this is how you're going to be. You're a rock star now. You're not like in the band anymore. You're the star, they're the band.
Camille had sort of convinced Madonna that she would represent her, but she didn't want to keep her band. She just wanted Madonna. So that was the end of that.
Camille was pointing the car more towards a Pat Benatar kind of a place. Leotards and headbands and leg warmers. So that was going on downstairs, while upstairs I'm working on the kind of more dancier stuff.
We knew we needed more than just Madonna. We needed to hire about 3 or 4 people for more professional sound. And we held rehearsals and auditions. Madonna's choices weren't always Camille's choices for the band members, but we did relinquish one member for her, which was Stephen Bray, the drummer.
I was brought into the Gotham situation it was like probation, because I was a known dangerous element.
They had a personal connection, an emotional connection. We polished about 4 tunes, and we immediately had some interest in Madonna.
There's a great potential for success there, but as a unit, there was definitely not any kind of momentum.
She'd sit around and pout and sulk, but Madonna had a real, strong will about her.
It was always, okay, well, that didn't work, so what are we gonna do now? Something's not right yet, so let's figure out what it is and let's make it better. Madonna was working with Camille downstairs on rock and roll, and I'm working on dance-oriented tracks upstairs. I started to ask Madonna, hey, will you come sing on this? I know we're doing this other thing with Camille, but that tape that we made had everybody on it. She'd take the cassettes over to Danceteria.
Madonna had come to the DJ booth with the cassette, and I gave it a listen and thought it was great.
I remember being on the second floor and hearing her demo tape and dancing to it and feeling really high and happy.
I liked it, and the floor liked it.
People didn't say, what the hell is this?
These tapes were going over real well at the club.
I was doing A&R at Island Records, and I played the song for Chris Blackwell, who passed on Madonna. Also at the time, I had just finished working with David Byrne of the Talking Heads, so I had a relationship with the people up at Sire.
I gave him $18,000. I said, try to bring me 4 or 5 or 6 demos, and the third or fourth thing that he brought me was Madonna. I was in the hospital, and I was so blown away by the one song, Everybody, that I asked him to bring Madonna to the hospital.
She got a singles deal. I was really very excited because I figured, okay, there's got to be more than $6 in this for me. But there wasn't because they wanted Mark to produce and not me.
My producing career exploded. I wasn't left in the dust like a lot of other people.
Começou a fazer sucesso, mas ainda não tinha atingido o topo das paradas. Tava tocando bastante no rádio, só que aí veio a capa do primeiro single. Quando Madonna viu a capa do single de Everybody, ela falou: ah, vocês estão me tirando, né? Cadê minha cara aqui? Diz que Madonna ficou fula da vida porque a cara dela não tava lá na capa do disco. E aí os produtores falaram assim: Madoninha, quando as pessoas ouvem você no rádio, acham que você é negra, cara. E Madonna respondeu: e daí? Isso pra mim é um elogio, grande coisa. Coloca minha cara aí. E falaram: não dá, vai confundir as pessoas. No próximo a gente coloca a sua foto, beleza? Eu sei que Madonna encheu o saco e aí resolveram gravar um clipe pra música pra mostrar a cara dela. Conseguiram fechar um acordo lá com uma produtora chamada Rock America, que é tipo o Condzilla do YouTube, para produzir aí o clipe, o primeiro clipe da Madonna, Everybody.
They approached me saying, Madonna is doing a showcase. Can you videotape it? We got $1,000 to spend on it. Up until then, Madonna was never shown. Photographs are not released. People thought she was a black singer.
I didn't know who Madonna was, other than she was this girl who was singing in some clubs downtown and had a little heat going for her.
Hi, Madonna. I'm from Detroit, and I'm 21. I sing my record. Well, I have 24 track songs that I sing live to, so the music sounds a lot like the record. This song that's like out on the radio right now, it's called Everybody, and it's about getting people to dance and lose their inhibitions. So I like taunt my dancers and get them to get up and do different things on their own.
The look was very unique, so we were quite excited, and then she read.
Look, Danny, you play games and I play games. We're both just too good at it. You didn't expect anything real to happen between us, did you?
The role that Madonna came in for was to be a love interest girlfriend for the character of Danny. And she was supposed to be a nice, plain, simple, virginal girl next door.
So where were you last night? You're supposed to meet me at 7 o'clock. I waited 45 minutes in the library.
You did?
Man, see what I mean? You asked me out to see how long I'd wait for you and you wouldn't show up.
The reading was very stiff, and it just sounded phony.
Look, Danny, let's just make like 2 ships that pass the night, okay?
I don't think we have any regrets that we didn't choose her for this role. I think the regret comes that we didn't have the foresight to change the role and then hire her. But hey, next.
Here's Madonna and Everybody.
Madonna needs an audience, and that was evident. Madonna was trying to do fashion, and we were trying to sing and trying to dance and trying to do art. She really wanted to be a solo artist. She really wanted her audience to see who she was.
I'm doing what I want to do, all right? And I know you're going to like it. All right, we're going to take a holiday.
Com o lançamento do clipe, Everybody realmente foi pro topo, deu uma alavancada na venda dos discos e aí resolveram lançar um segundo clipe. Nesse segundo clipe, o nascimento da MTV tinha acabado de acontecer, então uniu-se o útil ao agradável. Foi feito o clipe para Burning Up, aonde a Madonna gastou um pouco mais de dinheiro, e aí ela conseguiu colocar vários efeitos especiais da época. E aí veio o clipe para Borderline, clipe que foi muito bem obrigado na MTV, passou foi muito exibido na MTV, todo mundo pedia esse clipe. E dessa vez Madonna resolveu colocar algo mais com roteiro, ela tinha ali uma coisinha com namoradinho, cheio de ciúmes e blá blá blá, enfim.
Working on a new record now with Nile Rodgers, aren't
Right,
you?
I just finished it.
Oh, it's completed?
Yeah, it's done.
Well, great. When is it going to be out?
It'll be out in June, as soon as Borderline fizzles out. Oh, please. No, I'm really excited about it.
Wait, you don't want to say that you want your song to fizzle out on MTV, do you?
No, I just want to put something new out.
Okay.
You can't do that till the other stuff isn't interesting.
Lucky Star foi meio que a raspa do tacho desse disco da Madonna e foi muito importante para ela, porque dessa vez era a Madonna nua e crua, ou seja, era um fundo branco, um estúdio todo branco, com ela dançando mais os dançarinos. Apesar de ser creditado um figurinista nesse clipe, a Madonna tá vestida como Madonna. E aquela roupa fez muito sucesso. As pessoas começaram a sair na rua vestidas de Madonna. Dessa vez, para participar do clipe, ela chamou a Erika de novo e o irmão dela, e eles seriam pagos. Mas o Christopher, quando escreveu um livro sobre a irmã dele, ele falou que ele só recebeu $200 de cachê. Mas ele estava tão feliz em participar do clipe que nem ligou.
What I would like to ultimately achieve, I already told Dick Clark once on American Bandstand. So I repeat it again and annoy everyone who was annoyed before when I said it. I want to conquer the world.
Muito obrigado até aqui, até o próximo vídeo.